Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am, of course, Phil Better, the podcast mogul. And today, I am very excited because I have someone solving a problem for people today on the show. I have Miguel, I'm going to mess up his name, Heinonen. I messed up.
Heinonen, but you were close.
Heinonen. I was close. Miguel, you created an amazing program, a platform for people to find jobs and that, but you're an avid YouTuber, you're an avid entrepreneur. Why don't you just introduce yourself to my audience and then we can jump into your story about being an entrepreneur?
Sure. Well, my name is Miguel Heinonen, and friends and family call me Mika. So feel free to call me Mika. I founded Horizon. It's basically a platform that aggregates local jobs around you, and it skips the need to go through Indeed, because on these, platforms, a lot of anonymous jobs, you don't know who you're applying to. So I made a very end user focused platform where it's very visual, where it shows you like on Google Maps, where the jobs are located around you, how you can actually apply directly to the companies, and it's free for everyone. And I bootstrapped that company. There were a couple of failures along the way. Horizon 1.0, which was a huge mistake. I blew all the cash, but that's a story I'll probably tell you a little later. But yeah, just kept pushing. I was persistent. We've come quite a long way. I'm super excited for 2022. Our team has grown. We've actually bootstrapped from pretty much the early stages. And otherwise, me personally, I live between the US and Europe. So I go a lot between London, Sevilla, and then Miami and LA. So I'm looking forward to this year. I think I've been living out of a duffel bag for quite a few months now, but I'm enjoying every moment of it. So
you're living a dream that I like. I want to be able to travel across the world and help build companies here, and you're doing exactly what I want, and that's awesome. Plus, you're helping people get a job. Like that's huge, especially like you're geolocating the jobs on Google Maps. Like that's next level.
So I tell you, I had a fight to get in the tech industry. So I went to Johnson Wales University in Providence, and actually, I should go even further back. I wanted to enlist. I went to the Marine Military Academy in Texas. It was a great institution, especially at a young age, learning about how to cope with stress, and especially when you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't really faze me. That's why I love going down the entrepreneur road. I don't need a guaranteed paycheck. And but I was so adamant I was going to enlist. And my best friend at the Marine Military Academy said, hey, just so you know, I've applied for you to go to Johnson & Wales because you should have at least one university. And I was like, cool, what subject did you put down? And he was like, entrepreneurship. And I was like, what is that? I've never even heard of that word. And then he was like, I remember one Thursday he came in, he's like, dude, I got accepted to Johnson & Wales. And then the next day I got my application letter, like, I got accepted to Johnson & Wales too. And he convinced me to go to college to do entrepreneurship. And, back then, the entrepreneurship classes and the modules I took was actually at a culinary school. So it's actually really difficult to convince people to hire me. And Johnson & Wales is known as a culinary school. And it was an early pilot program, but I learned, quite a lot, from the professors. They obviously gave you a lot of internships to work for companies. And at that age and that time, the web 2.0 started like coming out, and I really didn't want to build a brick and mortar business. I wanted to build something web-based where I can affect people's lives across the globe without even them knowing me. And of course, I was very young and naive. I thought I knew everything by watching YouTube. My first startup, I actually raised some cash for it. I actually built the MVP. And it was very similar to Foursquare. I don't remember if you remember Foursquare, where you
I
can
remember
pin
Fourscore. Oh my
that.
God.
So it's very map based. If you may notice, Horizon is map based as well. So I kept that model, and I built a great platform. It's called Herb Info. So I still have the domain, and but I didn't know how to do outreach, and I killed my company by not knowing how to acquire users. And very, 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 very fortunate to fail early, but also very fortunate to learn. And that's why we didn't need to raise capital. Is that I learned how to really, really perform an outreach on an analytical level. So I know I teach. This is what you may have looked at LinkedIn, and during COVID, everyone started calling. But I taught companies how to scrape leads, how to find emails, how to create bots to automate this, so small teams can generate leads. And yeah, fortunately enough, like this skill set became very useful, especially during COVID. And yeah, so that really funded us to take Horizon to the next level of where people can sign up, create profiles on the platform as well. You know, companies can now chat with people individually without needing to go through recruitment. It's dirt cheap for everyone and free for end users. So
There we go. That's the big part. It's free for like small person like me to find a company, but for a company, it costs them money to post. Correct?
yeah, I mean, you look, you know, because it's web based, and you know, I was trying to go into the model of charging per job. I figured just depending on the company size, $100 if you're less than if you're less than five people, and limited hiring, which we put your jobs into our platforms, and we only, you know, to allow you to connect with other people is free. If you can hire in this market, it's free.
There you go. There we go. We need, and jobs are kind of a little more tough, um, given the restrictions we're facing in some of the marketplaces with COVID and that. And 2 years later, we're still dealing with that. It's insane.
I know.
Um, So, what was the why? Like, why did you want to jump into the entrepreneurial world? You said before that you were like going into the military, going to do my stint, where a lot of entrepreneurs actually come out of the military as well because they can't go from like the super strictness of the military into like the weirdness of corporate life, because corporate life is very different than military life, because military life kind of makes sense. You know, you got your orders, you know what you're doing, but when you go into the corporate world, it's sometimes a little shady with those, or there's more gray than black and white. So why did you want to jump into the entrepreneurial world?
You know, it, going to the Marine Military Academy definitely wired me a little different. But I really was fortunate at a young age to be around even young guys where they had a great leadership skill set. And as soon as I went, I had to go into the corporate world at some point to keep, you know, learning and funding my startups. And you know, I just didn't like a consistent paycheck, to be honest with you, because every month I knew, you know, I knew that I only had so much, and I wanted to build something myself. And I really, really am not good at being subservient or calling, you know, and I just, I call everyone by first name, and it really bit me the ass by not being too subservient. And so I figure I don't have a choice but to go down the entrepreneurial road. And I love building. I love the risk, and especially in tech, you know, not knowing how to code, especially in the early stages, it was a lot of learning. But then you learn a skill set, and then I just wanted to keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, you know, and to the point now where it's paid off. You know, now we build, you know, bots, and you know, to automate a lot of work. You know, we have a lot of scrapers that can push jobs and, you know, recommend this to specific users, specific jobs that we you know, because we collate a lot of jobs as well to make sure, because at the end of the day we're a content platform. So yeah, it's just persistence to really be in the tech community that pushed me here.
I like it. I like it. You're building multiple little mini platforms to build up onto your bigger platform. So
Yeah.
everything works together, and the end goal is to make your horizon even better than what it is. And you're just slowly learning. I love that. Always self education is the key to success, I find, and
you went down the coding. I'm starting to do the coding, actually, a bit of, not actual coding. I'm using Intermat and Airtable just to help get things moving for emails for getting guests on shows and that. So I'm dipping my toes, and I like
You
it.
know,
It's fun.
that's how it started. I started by using WordPress for the front end, and it looked like, we had like, and I was buying templates at that point,
Yeah.
and then I had a subdomain app dot, horizon, and it was horrific. It was so bad. I mean, we all have to start somewhere, but that's the great thing about, like, especially tech. You just have to push it out no matter how shit it is. And you just have to be persistent, and the more cash you have, the more you can invest into it,
Mhm.
so God, I started getting more cash and I could invest more into it and didn't have to go down the road of raising capital. And I don't think there's a need either at this point. I think if it gets if it gets out of hand, because it's funny, I actually pay for end users to come to the platform. So, right now we're growing at a steady pace and it's affordable. But if all of a sudden I get a million users a day, I have to raise cash because my credit line definitely will cover the service. But
If you get a
see,
million customers a day, I think you're onto something, and I think people will be more than happy to help you get that money, because that's a lot of access and a lot of data you're getting as well.
so
Um,
that's the thing. Like, obviously, like I said, this is Horizon 2.0. The first one, I was trying to replicate Uber's business model, and that was like, where, I would find people jobs and then the payment would go. And I realized, like, why am I taking money from the small guy when companies have a budget? And I remember I was like, let's just scrap this. I pissed off a lot of people as well because, this is retheming the business model of making a B2B tool, but giving it free to all end users. And thank God we started growing a community, focused right now really on like tech companies, because they hire, people that also don't have tech skill sets, like operation candidates, UX designers that don't know how to code, customer success support agents. So yeah, it's been great. Funnily enough, we're pretty big in Asia now. Bangalore, we seem to get a lot of traffic there because there's a lot of tech companies over there looking for remote jobs,
yeah.
and slowly growing in on the East Coast as well. Thank God, New York
Uh,
is a good hub for us as well. So
well, yeah, New York has like a, everybody wants to make it in New York. Everybody hears about making it in New York. I'm pretty sure LA would probably be, would LA? No, LA.
I love LA. Like, it was one of my favorite places in the world. After COVID, it's certainly taken a hit.
Yeah.
The scenery is not the same, but the quality of life in LA is really nice. But I just went to Miami. I'm going back to Miami. That's a whole. I used to joke that if you go to Miami, it's because you're retiring, but the quality of life is amazing in Miami. Like, I've got to the point where I go to jacuzzi every day at like 6 o'clock. I'm an old guy now. I wear
Uh,
shorts to the office.
I
I
was
love.
taking a look at your profile. If your thing's up to date, we're the same age, so you're not an old guy.
I
You're
keep thinking I'm old. I don't know.
I know when you're over 35, everything starts seeming old, and we just passed over that at least. I did. I just jumped into 36 last year. My God.
I just turned 36 on December 27th.
Oh,
So
I was so I'm a little older. I'm a little older. I'm a little more wiser than you. I'm November, so not that much older than you.
yeah, I
Um,
feel like every time I look at young people, I'm like, I was paying taxes when you were still in high school.
mm.
So
What are you doing complaining about life? You barely has started. I got it. I,
I
I
know.
I have 18 years of this under my belt. Um,
I know.
but so you when did you start your entrepreneurial journey? Like, you're 36. Did you start like 2 years ago? Did you start
No, the moment I got out of college,
so
I
so nearly
remember,
16 years you've been doing this, I would say.
yeah, with a lot of failures, to be honest with you, and then, but I was quite lucky because, and I advise this to everyone, like especially the younger generation. If you really want to get in the tech industry, work for another tech company and learn everything you can. And my first startup was quite a bit of a failure. It was like Foursquare. I didn't know how to do outreach. And obviously, bootstrapping the next company, I ended up getting hired by a software discovery platform, and they taught me the skill sets really of how to generate leads, and that's what every company, regardless whether they're tech, are leads, and how to find qualified leads that actually have intent to buy your solution. And teaching me that skill set, I spent 1 year with them to the point of where I get to advise many other startup companies, and some pay, some buy me burgers or beer. I love sharing that skill set, which actually has been great because I help these companies out, and meet over lunch. I tell their sales team, like, do X, Y, and Z, and the referrals that came in, I didn't have to, you know, uh, bootstrap the company completely on my dime. It was also on other companies helping us. The money went direct into Horizon. We could hire more developers. Like, okay, well, now we want to build a database where employers can filter through. Now we want to build a text messaging tool to notify them that they've just got a job application. So yeah, really, really fortunate. But I fought to stay in this industry, and you have to be persistent as well, because being an entrepreneur, you get kicked in the teeth a lot.
Yep.
But the harder you work, the luckier you get, they say. And thank God, I feel pretty lucky right now. I get to travel between the Europe, the US. We make money, and more importantly, if goes well, one day I can have that problem of I can't afford the server. But yes, persistence, and really just the harder I work, the luckier I got.
That's pretty much the definition of luck. I was listening to the compounding effect while I do my walks. That's part of my self development. It's always invest in yourself, right? Always learn the better tools, because I don't come from an entrepreneurial world. I don't even have that. I kind of had that bug, but I was always steered towards the corporate world when I was younger. It's safer. It's the practical thing to do, and you can retire at 65. 18 years into it, I found out that it's a complete lie. Doesn't really happen. Yeah, though, no matter how much work you put in, you're not getting the same output. So decided to throw my hat into the entrepreneurial world, and it is true. It's luck is all about preparation, hard work, just going for every opportunity, and it looks like luck, but it's not. You're creating your own luck. You're paving your way to the success, and everybody just sees the final product.
Yeah, I think especially in the world now with Instagram and the fake gurus and stuff like that. And I think we're also, I mean, me and you are a little older, but there's a generation now where they think it's overnight,
Yeah,
and sometimes it is, but at the end of the day, you still need to be persistent, and you also need to know of where to stop. Sometimes you need to stop and reevaluate, like,
yeah.
is there a market for this? It took me a long time. I even took cash, and it took me a long time to admit, like, whoa, I gotta really hold my brakes now and figure out, is this what's gonna get me an exit, or was this like ego that I was persistent? But I think you really, really have to know your market, and you really have to evaluate every now and then. Um, and at that point, then you can just keep proceeding.
Yeah, no, it's very true. You need to take a moment and always reevaluate the goals. Always keep those goals in mind. Like, what's the end goal? What is your like? I've started setting up those quarterly goals to always stay that you're on track to where you're going, so you're not screwing up and then ending up, this amazing product end up failing because you didn't head towards the right goals. And like you said, is it going to get me the exit, or is it my ego being fed? And that's a very
Yeah.
important question to ask yourself while you're building your companies, or you're building your first company. Like, it has to be about the goal. Like, what's your end goal? Is it just to build this to a certain level and just leave it play in the background, creating that additional wealth, or is it to get to an Amazon levels of success? I want to go. You talked about your first failure being it was like the
It was
Google
like Foursquare. It was called Herb
Foursquare.
Info. Yeah.
what made you decide to jump in? Like, I'm guessing that is probably your big one. It's your biggest failure, or if you will, quote unquote. I don't like the biggest failure. It's because also those
It
teach you
was
the
my
most.
best feedback lesson
There you
about being in
go.
a tech company. I don't consider it well, business model wise, it
It,
was a
I
failure,
I
but
get what you mean
all
because
those
like
skill sets that I learned then from a mile away, every time I have a startup that approaches me, I can smell, the skill sets of people if they're actually going to follow through. And more importantly, I can now smell like how do you scale this, and so all that feedback is really helped me at a young age of figure out about the tech companies. And very I didn't really want to be an advisor, but it just happens to be that people offer me cash, and sure, why not. But it's not what it's not the career path I was going down. I really love Horizon and I love what I do, and more importantly, but when people offer cash to help them scale up, yeah, sure, why not? But that was a skill set from learning from failure that I get to share with everyone else. And people pay, whether it's in burgers and beers for life or a monetary fee to help, larger sales teams.
that's like failures teach you, and when you can learn from your failures and you don't look at them as failures, you look at them as lessons. Because you do fail in one regard. Because I look at I love podcasting. Podcasting is my joy because I get to talk with amazing entrepreneurs, amazing podcasters. I get to talk about movies, all fun stuff that I get to talk about on my podcasts. And my first ever podcast to me is my greatest success, but also my greatest failure. Because the goal that I had for it was to be like a Joe Rogan. I want to be as popular as Joe Rogan. He had a bit more going into it than I did. He didn't have to start at scratch. He already had his fan base in that. So that's a lesson I learned. But in terms of the successes and all that, it did teach me all the skills I needed to launch a podcast, be successful, and like you, advise others. So it is usually your first is usually your best and your worst success, I find.
Yeah, I kept the domain for a reason. I kept the domain for a reason. Obviously, I did raise capital for Urbinfo, but small cash, like really small cash. But I moved the equity from the people that invested in Urbinfo to Horizon, so they had equity of the company, and they love the quarterly reports. So they invested in me and not just the company. And it was also, I felt very honored and lucky that they didn't really bust my balls, really like, okay, you fucked up and you wasted years. And yeah, and now I had Horizon, but I kept the business, like, Horizon was very map based. There were local businesses, you pin it and you could find local businesses, and it was a listing directory. But if you look at Horizon now, it's the exact same concept of where the map is on the right side. You have the employers, you can filter by companies. You can actually look at the logo and see it in a map. And then you can actually, okay, well, I want to click what are the jobs in this office because I live right next door, and it'll show you all the jobs. And so yeah, it was definitely a painful learning experience. I mean, I ruined my dating life back then because I either had money for going out on a date or paying a developer, and I always chose a developer. So I certainly had no game whatsoever or no money because I was constantly paying developers.
It's probably all right. You're probably fine in that regard because look at where you are now. You invested in your company, and your company's doing amazing. I wish, in all honesty, I wish I had something like this when I was younger because it makes applying for jobs so much easier. Because they just say the town they're in, and you're like, yeah, okay, the town's kind of big. Like, are you on the east end? Are you on the west end? North, south? But with this map-based thing, I can see, okay, it's a 20-minute walk to the office. That's amazing. That's easy for me.
Yeah, I mean, you can filter of like the role that you're looking for. I mean, right now we're in specific cities, so we're like in London, New York, LA, Miami, and really where the big hubs are. But in the next 2 3 months, we're just going to populate a lot more in the other cities. Obviously, we have to scrape a lot of data as
Yeah.
well. But for me, it's really important to have jobs that are live, that are from actual companies, not jobs from recruiters trying to generate leads, even though the job's expired 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And that was another big differentiation is I want to allow end users to tailor their CV for that specific role because it's right next door. And to be simple, it's web-based, it works well on the phone, so we didn't need to create an app. But yeah, let's see. I mean, honestly, we're still a startup. We have, not too many people on the team, but let's see where we are next this year. I'm super excited. I've got a lot more cash to spend on it this year and build more. So
I'm excited to see where you guys go because it's an amazing platform. I was playing around with it just before we jumped on the interview, and I was like, yes, there's nothing in Montreal for me, but I was like, okay,
yeah,
now I'm in New York. Let's check out. And I saw all the different jobs and the possibilities, and it's so user friendly. You made it
thank you,
so
man.
easy.
You,
It
you know, I this is my real goal, really, to help people get in the tech community because I had a shitty first 10 years of trying to make a paycheck out of it. And I started off the PowerPoint, and I actually have a video on it on YouTube about how I did. I remember I told you Horizon 1.0. I made a
yeah.
mistake again by not understanding the landscape, the marketplace, and really trying to understand how to. I was trying to be the next Uber because everyone's like, "Oh, I want to be the next Uber of this, the Uber of this, the Uber of laundry, the Uber of this," and then I was trying to monetize off people, and I burned the cash. And obviously, there was a point where it was really bad, and I had to keep funding the development of my concept. I had to even take a part-time job at a restaurant, and they were really cool. And I actually had the best time of my life because the first time I was talking to people, I was getting wasted on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday after work with free beer, so I had a great time. But I that's when the business model changed because I realized I want to be a B2B company. I know employers spend about 4K to hire. How do we reduce it down to less than $100 and make it cheap, and to help out the SMEs that can't afford to be on Indeed or these other platforms. So yeah, I put everything on a PowerPoint. I remember the first version was just I want a map with pins, simple as that. That's all I could afford, and a logo, I had uploaded in JSON files, and then I got more money. I was like, okay, well, I can't upload in JSON files. Can I get a dashboard for the love of God? To upload 20 jobs took me like 2 days, and I couldn't find the bug in the code, and then they built a dashboard. I had more money. Then I became an advisor, and then all of a sudden I was like, all right, well, now I want dashboards so they can upload CSVs. Now I want my employees to be able to sign up in LinkedIn and get recommendations. So, fortunately enough, like the persistence paid off, and with more cash, I put more into the company. But I want people to know is that you can do it. Like have a concept, build a really, really basic MVP, put in PowerPoint and get feedback. And if people say, hey, this is really cool, build it for a couple $100 on Upwork and Fiverr, and test out your MVP. Anyone can get in tech. You just need to be persistent and start with a small budget. The first MVP of Horizon, after I blew the first cash in 1.0, was about 400 pounds. And look where I am today. So I want people to know anyone can build anything, at a fraction of the price. Bootstrap it, and you don't always need capital.
There we go. And it's something that that's been I talked with a lot of entrepreneurs. I've had entrepreneurs who have bootstrapped their business like yourself, and I've also had entrepreneurs who have been investors. So you're kind of both. You've had investors and you bootstrapped. Um and they say, and I think it's a turning point in the world that a lot of people are like, I'm happy if I'm making $1 million a year. Like if my business is making $1 million a year, I'm making a couple hundred grand a year. I'm happy. You don't have other expenses because you don't need to have multiple employees like these major corporations, because a lot
Yeah.
of things are not like you. There, you can hire out. Like, oh, I need someone, a UX designer. I can hire someone off Fiverr, or I can hire someone off Upworks, or these better companies that deal with it. And it's short-term contracts. It's built. It's done. Boom, and then
We
you
build
have it.
automation. Like I said, I build bots, actual bots that actually do the outreach, scrape the outreach, hunt. You could generate 10,000 emails in one day, new B2B companies. And again, I didn't need to hire sales teams because we build bots to do this, and it's actually a very useful skill Especially, this is where I failed in my first startup, and I learned how never to fail in that again. So, yeah.
It's interesting because I have my podcasting business. Most of my outreach is having guests come on because they see the quality of a podcast, they see the value of the thing. So actually reaching out is terrifying for me. So I like how you started with, I didn't know how to outreach, so I built a bot and then I slowly learned. I'm like, maybe that's the direction I need to go, because there are already a lot of companies out there that offer the services,
Yeah,
but
and they charge you, you
so much
know,
money. So much money.
500 times the worth. And for you, I mean, for you, it's simple because you can create directories. You can automate LinkedIn. There are many tools out there to connect, and you could say, I'm on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I want to find CEOs in tech industry, and you can just automate. Hi, first name. It'll even pull in the first name, and like, hi, first name. I'd love to get you on my podcast. And LinkedIn Sales Navigator is $79.99 USD. The bots are, they're you can use free ones, you can use paid ones, and you automate your LinkedIn to build your appointments. And the great thing about your, going for podcasts, for example, is that this is not really just a sale process. It's actually to engage with people, learn
Mhm.
about them, and you know, I reached out to you because I wanted to be on your podcast. You know what I mean? So go for it. Use LinkedIn. There are loopholes in the
Oh,
system where you can connect with as many as you want.
I'm actually currently watching. I didn't start watching your YouTube. I'm going to be starting, but there's another YouTuber that I watch named Nathan, and he uses Airtable with Integrate to do a LinkedIn scraping, and he has a whole video on it because he's building multiple SaaS businesses, and he shows you how to do it. And he's like, okay, this is the beginning of this. I'm doing, he does consultation as well. And he films it while he's building these things for his clients. He keeps
Yeah.
them as anonymous as possible. He's like, okay, here's the process. And then once he's off camera, he updates it and that, but he builds it live so that you can see and be like, oh, so I can do that. So like Airtable is free, Integrate is free. So I'm slowly learning to make those automations for myself.
Learn it, and it's no code. It's literally you just need YouTube, but Zapier and Slack has
Yeah.
become incredible of what I use it for, especially like lead generation. So if someone fills out a form, it's immediately on Slack. And because it's on Slack, a notification goes to everyone of the sales team to immediately to follow up. You can even use Slack to type a specific code and just like, okay, well, scrape today's list of my new leads from LinkedIn. It's Zapier is an incredible tool.
Oh,
Really, and it
Zapier.
gives you a list of all companies that you can integrate.
Yeah, Zapier I use to actually create my show notes. Uh, a little secret behind the scenes: when someone fills out their Google form, I grab certain aspects from the Google form, throw it into the Word doc, the Google form, the Google sheet, and it's done. It's pre-populated. I have to go in and there's certain like upkeeps you have to do because it's never perfect, but it just takes it to that. It just cuts it down from doing an hour worth of scraping off the internet, finding all the links and populating it yourself. To it's populated, it's a 5-minute thing now. I just have to read it to make sure it makes sense.
But this is like the foundation of, again, building something. and
Yeah.
and like, now that you're getting into like using, like Airtable, it's only a moment from a couple of weeks from now where you have an idea for a startup, and
Oh,
you're
I
like, well, I
already
know how
have
to
an
use
idea for a
Airtable.
startup. I know what my startup is. It's
Does it
now
include Airtable into it as well?
it's going to.
I told you. See,
uh
I mean, it's exactly that type of thing. That's exactly how it happened with me, because I learned how to use WordPress because I didn't need to hire developers. I knew to buy templates. And all of a sudden, well, I know how to use this module and I know how to use this module. I know how to integrate maps and I can build an MVP. This exact feeling that you have is what I got at an early stage. And I started putting all these things together. I'm like, yeah, I love tech.
Mhm. I love the like, so my idea is making a platform that goes from, because I know when podcasters record, we have multiple platforms we can use. Like we have StreamYard here, there's Restreamio, there's live stream, and there's about a Twitch and all that. But after this, I still have to download it. I have to upload the audio into my hosting platform. I have to do my editing and my video I have to put on YouTube. And if anything, I have to add to that. my idea is having it all self-contained into one web-based platform, so that I can log into like StreamYard, and when I'm done the session, I can go straight into editing either the video or the audio. First, it's going to be audio because it's going to make it a little easier because we're podcasters. But then it goes from editing the audio to uploaded to the hosting platform, so that it can be distributed at your choice. So it's like it's seamless in one place. And I know it's going to take a lot of time to build it and figuring out all the coding and that, but I'm slowly learning how to build the data tables first, the databases, and go from there.
Awesome, man. I look forward. I honestly, I tell you, there's what a better time, like today, to build a startup is a fraction of the cost of
Mhm.
what it used to be 5 years ago. 5 years ago, and there were all these different languages, that obviously you had no understanding what was going on. And now you have full stack developers that charge $10 an hour in Asia who are just as good. I mean, even think outside the box. And I built a relationship with one to the point we work on all our projects together. We scale up. We talk about the plans. He has a percentage of the company as well. But I met him on people per hour,
Wow.
and it helped me build my MVP. And I called like, hey, I got more cash. Like, can we build this? And all of a sudden, now we're like, all right, we need like we need a front end designer because like we don't have time for this. But to the point is that for you, it's no better time right now than just putting your idea on paper, building like using XD to create like the framework, what's going to look like, get someone to help you at a fraction of the cost to build like a proper wireframe, and then just start deploying it, test it out at a fraction of the price, see what the front end looks like, seeing it live. It's what a better time.
It truly is, because now is like the time. Kind of, I guess it's like we had the web 1.0, we had the dot-com bubble at one
Yeah, I
point,
missed
everybody
that. I
having a
wish I was
website.
there.
Oh, I mentioned it. I watched it. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money just being made and disappearing at the same time. That's amazing how that happened. But I feel like then we had this web 0.20s was the social media, the explosion of
Yeah,
social media companies. And I
yeah,
feel web 0.3 is going to be the tech bubble. It's going to be another tech bubble where people, or a startup bubble where everybody's making startups because it's so incredibly cheap, just like making a website back then was relatively incredibly cheap. Um,
mm,
given the time, but like now, because we can start tech companies, because we have Airtable that provides so much free database. You have Google Drive and Amazon web-based services that are pretty much cheap to use to host everything. Like
yeah.
today it's like you said, it's a fraction of a cost. Something that would have cost $1 million 10 years ago now can cost like a couple thousand or even $100,000. The prices like drop dramatically.
I know. Even just to build MVPs now, all you need is a good PowerPoint.
It's true. So I do want to touch on MVP, because you did drop that a few times, and some of my audience may think it's the most valuable player. Um, for people in tech, it doesn't stand for most valuable player. It stands for most viable product or
The minimal viable product. So you
minimal.
need to build a version that truly is a piece of shit, but it works enough to show people what it is and to get feedback. If you want to build the next LinkedIn or the LinkedIn 2.0, you don't want to build it completely and then find out like what I did, the mistake of where I built my startup and I actually got funding for it. Not much. It was like 10K. It's still 10K that wasn't my
10K
cash.
wasn't yours. That's someone else's money you're now
Just
responsible
yeah,
for. So
and just to clear up, they're happy now because I moved it into Horizon 2.0. But the MVP really, I built it where it was like fully functioning. There were admin platforms, I'd send you like 1099s, especially because there were a lot of subcontractors on a platform. Didn't it? I should have been smart to build an MVP of just a minimal viable product, get feedback, and then I would have been able to understand at an early stage, well, actually, this is what I need to change right now. And first of all, especially in tech, you want to be able to build something like minimal that works. You can sign up people, they can experience it, and they actually have use for it. But the feedback that you get is where they'll say, well, you know what? It's too complex to sign up. Here's feedback. Then you can now build the next stage, whereas the next stage will be, 1.1. And then they'll say, "Oh, you know what? Now you can sign in with Facebook, credentials. That's 1.2, 1.3, 1.4." But the MVP, that engine and that basic platform is enough to get feedback, and you can constantly feed the monster to integrate many different features and functions, and especially in tech, you want to be able to understand what your platform does, and even if it's scalable. But by building an MVP, it's cost effective. You don't lose too much money. You can build it really fast because it's a minimal viable product, and you get feedback. So that's what an MVP is.
I love it. And it's so important to have, because when you're jumping into the tech, building it when it's perfect, it's going to be too late because someone else has already built it faster, stronger, and better than yours.
Yeah.
Plus, you get that automatic feedback with the MVP. Um, Miguel, I want to know, you've probably read a lot of books or have watched a lot of YouTube, at least. Do you have a book that you always suggest maybe entrepreneurs, either in the tech or just in general entrepreneurs, should at least start reading?
You know, there is a book that I will suggest, and it was actually the book that made me more interested in learning more, especially university. It's Rich Dad Poor Dad, because that's the one that really teaches you if you really want to be an employee or an employer. And I wanted to be an employer from right out of school, but I had to be an employee to become an employer. I had to bootstrap my company. So I smiled. I took the corporate jobs, and now I'm 36. I've ruined the chances of me going back to corporate because now I think I'm too old. I'm better as an advisor because I have a specific skill set. But that book really kind of taught me that I'd rather be an employer and have the ability to know that I can sleep and still generate money, or I can have one day longer in my vacation without getting fired, but I still will have income. And I think that's why I built, and persistent to stay in that tech community. The experience, and this is a piece of advice that I'll give, to your audience, and it happened to me a year ago. So the first like I said, the first decade was bootstrapping, building companies, failing companies, and thank God it got to the point of where now I get paid for my skill sets, and hopefully my platform goes to the next level. There's a point of where you've struggled in that early point, and all of a sudden you're making over 100K, and then you get comfortable, and that is the biggest. I was comfortable for like 5 6 months, and I came back to the UK, and I was just like, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't work like my life depends on it. Like, I worked really hard when I was broke. I worked like my life depends on it. So
Mhm.
it took me a long time to get back into that mode of where, stop thinking that I can afford to have a steakhouse, because I still haven't exited. I'm still building, and I'm still trying to acquire, and I want to be all over. I want to be in Toronto, Montreal, and I lost that hunger because I got comfortable. So learn from the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Also remember, it's a book. Take the feedback, but stay hungry till you get to that point. And for the moment, I wasn't hungry, and I wasn't working like my life depended. I got comfortable, So get those life experiences from books, get through life, be able to afford, survive, but stay hungry.
I think that's a huge thing. When you get to a level of success, you get comfortable because you're like, oh, I got here. I don't have to worry. This is the level of success that I've wanted. But you have to stay hungry for that next level. You like set those minor goals
Yeah.
to reach your big goal. Like my big goal, I would love to be a billionaire. That's like
Yeah.
monetary wise billionaire. I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. And I'm like, but I know when I reach millionaire, I can retire. If I'm a millionaire, I know I can retire because people have done it.
I
But
used to think so someone told me once that she was an ex, but like I like the chase. You know what I mean? I like the actual chase. Like I've been chasing, like, trying to go down this road for almost, a decade plus now, right?
mhm,
And so what would happen if I exit tomorrow and someone offered me 5 million? Hypothetically, they offer me 5 million right now, and I exit. I don't know how I'd feel about it, to be honest with you, because I'm not chasing anything anymore. Like I am used to being like a
you're a
dog
hunter.
chasing a car.
Y-
Yeah. you
You're
know.
a hunter.
So
I know the feeling.
yeah, so I don't know, like I'm ready. Like I want to keep building, and the moment that I can afford this, so I realize that I'm not the best asset to the company anymore, and there's a lot more money to hire better people. So be it. But I there are a lot of people out there looking for jobs. I definitely want to be a contender out there and a useful tool. But I don't know how I feel about trying to be a million. I was trying to chase the paycheck. Now I can afford a steak whenever I want, which is a good feeling. I can afford to fly, anywhere I want, for holidays, vacation. But I am again hungry because I realize I'm not at that next level. I'd love to have a problem where I can't afford the service. That'd be a great problem to have. But yeah, I'm still hungry, and it took me a while to get like used to like, hey, I'm gonna be full of shit if I'm not hungry, and in a year from now I'm in the exact same place. So
Yeah, no, I feel staying hungry is the best thing because it forces you to grow. It keeps you in your in outside your comfort zone and moving on and taking like you said, you took 5 to 6 months like before getting comfort. Sometimes you need that little pause before you go out back out on the hunt to get to the next
yeah,
level in that. Sometimes it's like, wow, I got here. I don't have to fight for food. I know I can go get, like you said, I can go have a steak whenever I want, but then it's like, okay, I had this lifestyle. This is not the lifestyle I wanted. This is not where I wanted to be. Let's go back into the hunt. Let's go out and get up higher and bigger and hit those bigger levels, because that's what we need in life. If you're not forcing yourself forward, you're just staying complacent, and like you said, who wants to be in the same place they were last year?
exactly. That's what I'm looking for. 2022. First of all, I don't like numbers you can't divide by two. So 2022, I don't know. Maybe I have OCD, but I've noticed that when I put the volume up and on the TV, it's like it's never 19. It's either 20, 22. And in my friend's car, they'll put it 19 volume. I'm like, it's either 18 or 20.
Yeah, like,
It's
come on, what?
2022. I really good feeling about this year.
Yeah, no, it's funny if you look back at every even number has been kind of a relatively okay year. Like 2020 wasn't the best, but it was like it's a cleaning house. We're cleaning house. We're trying to get better. I started improving myself. That's my start of my entrepreneurial journey. So I see how like the evens are good, and you may not like the odds because they usually have some bad
I
news
think I
happens.
just have a bad OCD. I have OCD. I have, but it's been an asset to me, like
Yeah.
an asset to me actually to help me structure.
Ah. I'm going to give you the last 5 minutes, Miguel. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. I want you to let my audience know where they can contact with you, either to find your business or because you have YouTube, you have a podcast, you have like a lot of stuff that people can connect with you. Let them know where they can and how you can
So
help them out.
the best place to contact me would be on miguelheinonen.com. Um, where else? If you're looking for a job, go to horizon.com. It's HEIRIZON. So feel free to look for a job. And one piece of advice that I really want to share with everyone is if you have a startup idea, you know, don't feel like you have to have the full product. Build MVP, like I was saying, put it in a PowerPoint so you can visually see everything from the signing up to the execution, and then more importantly, go on Upwork and Fiverr to build you that MVP and just build it and don't spend more than $500, and then at least you can say you've done it. And if you ever need help or advice, feel free to just reach out to me on my website. I love helping people. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Excellent, Miguel. I want to thank you so much for being an awesome guest, sharing your story, sharing how you bootstrapped an amazing company and failed it be having it and being invested in, but also learned a lot from those lessons and shared it with my audience. Guys, the links will be in the show notes down below. Please go ahead, contact Miguel, check out Horizon. It's an amazing platform. If you're in New York, if you're in Miami, if you're in LA, if you're anywhere else, London and across the world. I know we have audiences everywhere. Check it out to see if you may be able to use it, and maybe you can even apply to work with Miguel in the future if he has any options there. Miguel, again, thank you so much for being an awesome guest. I can't wait to talk to you more and see your growth with Horizon and anything else you're doing, and probably connect with you when I start doing my minimum viable product.
Hey, come to my podcast. I haven't enjoyed my time with you. We should shoot the shit on my podcast.
I would love to be a guest on your show and just chat about everything. What is your podcast actually about, so that my audience, maybe they can jump over?
I just wanted to shoot the shit with people. I didn't want to do like these thought leadership podcasts. I love talking to people, finding out their stories, and just talking about really like, how, man, this is where we were last year. This is where we go next year. So this is very, very light.
I love it. I love it. So yeah, guys, look for me on Miguel's podcast. I'll make sure to share that as well. And everybody, thank you so much for listening, and remember to invest in yourself. Hey, everybody, I want to thank you so much for watching the show and listening to the podcast. As a thank you, remember, you can always head over to my website, feelbetterinc.com, and get free 15 minutes with me to talk about how you can grow your podcast, how to monetize your podcast, or even how to start your podcast. I have helped lots of people, and I want to help you do the same for your business or just for your personal brand. So again, that is feelbetterinc.com. Head over there, book your free 15 minutes, and it'll be a pleasure to help you out. Have a good night, and remember to invest in yourself.